and welcome to Parliament Viewpoint, your regular program that illustrates the position of Nigerian lawmakers on issues of national importance. My name is Ogemoyi Ihimekmen. One major issue on the nation's front burner today is how to tackle the insurgent Boko Haram group. And in a bid to address this, President Goodluck Jonathan on July 2014 forwarded a letter to the National Assembly asking the lawmakers to approve a $1 billion external loan to enable the federal government combat the terrorists. In the letter, President Jonathan explained that the loan was urgently needed to upgrade the equipment, training, and logistics of armed forces and security services in order to enable them to confront the insurgents effectively. This amount is outside the 4.6 trillion naira 2014 budgetary provisions, of which 968.12 billion naira was appropriated for defense on account of the Boko Haram insurgency.
I represent Yobe East Senatorial District, half of which is now totally under Boko Haram control. 2 local governments out of my constituency are 100% under Boko Haram control. So as I speak now, not less than 13 local governments in Borno, Yobe, and Adama are totally under Boko Haram control. And the prayer is very, very definite and concise. The only thing I want to add to what I have seen here is the issue of quickly approving Mr. President's request for $1 billion to be released to fight this insurgency.
And what is happening now is a challenge even to our legitimacy in these chambers. Because if they've come now and say that a place is a caliphate, then any senator or member who is from there is no more entitled to be in this chamber. That's what they're saying in effect. And if people can forcefully begin to take some people out of this chamber, then the legitimacy of our own existence here is seriously challenged. There are so many issues that would arise as a result of what Boko Haram is doing. It started like a joke, but it's gone well beyond that now. All of us here cannot go and wear uniform and take rifles and fight. It is the armed forces that are going to do the physical fighting for us, but all of us here have a role to play.
Generally, I think, Mr. President, there is a generally low morale within the military. And until the military really is in a position where it can take up responsibility, there's no way these challenges can be faced with the kind of strength that will give us value. The problems of internally displaced persons and all collateral damages that we experience arise from the inability of the military to contain the situation. And until they can contain the situation, what we are saying is going to increase exponentially. And so much talk does not amount to any action if the military is not in a state of readiness to challenge the insurgency that we are having. From clear indications are that our military is not trained. When you see clips of the training these insurgents have, 100 of them can overrun a place because they are trained to fire. Our soldiers don't have that capacity. The other thing, Mr. President, and I think you have to take this more seriously, is the state and behavior of the leadership of the military. I think the military is out of touch with what is happening in the field. Their leadership. The leadership of the military is in a situation where they have integrated so much into comfortable civilian life and really are not doing what they should be doing in a situation where we have difficulties. There was time when Nigeria was very proud of its own military. Every Nigerian talks about the Nigerian military now with a sense of trepidation because we seem to have lost it. And as long as we lose it, communities are now developing their resistant capacity based on the non-existence of what should be a national institution. The military as a national institution protected us. But right now, people are reducing themselves into ethnic militia. I was seeing on television the other day how the vigilante in Maiduguri is expanding its own capacity to recruit local people. Mr. President, you must also know that the history of local vigilante always creates subsidiary crisis when things normalize. Because what happens is the fact that you have to find a way of integrating those people into the formal system, or you create another problem that has to be handled once normalcy returns. And so, what do you have? So many ammunitions littered across the country, and local communities are constituting themselves into capacities in order to challenge themselves to the insurgency going on in their communities. Mr. President, sir, these complaints is a wake-up call for the National Assembly to call on the military. Fortuitously, you are from that constituency. And when we as civilians mention that, I know it touches your nerve, but I think there is need for the Senate President and those in your former constituency to reinvigorate themselves into the challenges of defending our country.
Are you saying we should...
Let us also note that, yes, Nigeria has performed very well in peacekeeping operations, but the institution of peacekeeping is different from the institution of self-defense, because our defenses are collapsing. And if our defenses are collapsing, Mr. President, we need to re-inject value into our military.
Thank you, Mr. President. Very distinguished colleagues. Certainly, this is not the first time we are discussing the issue of insecurity, not only in the entire country, but in particular, the northeast of Nigeria. Severally, we invited our security agencies. Severally, they've given us assurances. But severally, we have seen that things continue to deteriorate. Over the holidays, I'm aware and I believe most of us travel out of this country, and wherever you go, people keep asking you about Boko Haram. Some out of genuine concern, but some out of mere mockery. In one instance, I was in a taxi in England, and somebody was asking me about Boko Haram. I asked the taxi driver where he comes from. I told him he came from Afghanistan. So I was worried that somebody from Afghanistan is asking us about Boko Haram when they have something more compelling in their own country. So that is the extent we've sunk. We've tried to explain to our friends and partners. We've also tried to give hope to our people. And it's getting to a time when it's becoming difficult for us to give further assurances. Dear colleagues, I would like to remind you that in the last couple of years, the nation had looked up to this Senate to help to save the country from imminent collapse. In the years 2009 to 2010, we had the health challenge of our president. And regrettably, our constitution and our laws did not make sufficient provision to deal with such matter. It took the ingenuity of this Senate to take this country out of that situation. Again, I believe in 2012 or so, we had the issue of the removal of fuel subsidy. This country almost came to a head, a halt, until this Senate intervened and helped in ensuring the settlement of the matter between the Labour and government. I believe we've come to a situation in the issue of insecurity in the Northeast where this Senate will need to play another role to save this country. We're not doing it just out of sheer patriotism. I think it's a constitutional responsibility of this Senate and indeed the National Assembly. I would like to show you shortly the provision of the seventh schedule to the Constitution regarding the oath of office of members of the National Assembly. At the middle of that paragraph, it says that I will strive to preserve the fundamental objectives and directive principles of state policy contained in this Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. One of the fundamental objectives and directive principles is contained in Section 14, subsection 2B of the Constitution. It says that security and welfare of the people shall be the primary purpose of government. And the first word there is security before welfare. Therefore, the Constitution enjoins us to ensure that our people are secured and their properties are also secured. We must be fair in our responsibility. If we do any other thing in this business, in these hallowed chambers, without addressing what is happening in the northeast of this country, we must make no mistake about it. If we do not resolve what is happening in the northeast, there may not be an election in Nigeria next year. The clear provisions of Section 135(3) of our Constitution states that if the country is at war, and of course we're at war, election may not hold. So we need, if anybody believes because it's from Lagos or from Enugu or from anywhere, that what's happening in the Northeast does not concern him, we are making a major mistake. We have our soldiers who are dying every day. They come from various parts of the country. Democracy has been rolled back in the Northeast. The freedom of speech is no more working there. Freedom of expression, freedom of assembly, freedom of movement. So democracy is certainly not working in Borno State and Adamawa State and some other part of the Northeast. And we must show sufficient concern to ensure that we restore not just security but democracy in those places. So today is very important for us as the Senate to take a firm stand on how to deal with this situation. I believe we can do this because we've done it before. I therefore would like to join hands with our colleagues in ensuring that this motion succeeds and we're able to be part and parcel of the resolution of the problem of insecurity in the Northeast.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. Senate President, distinguished colleagues, I am Senator Bello Mama Tukur, representing Adamawa Central. I also want to join the earlier speakers to contribute a little about what I know, because I come from Adamawa, and I want to say that the occupation of some local governments in Adamawa State in the last few days happened in less than 10 days. It took Boko Haram less than 10 days to move in to Madagali, Gulag, Michika, and now they are Baza, just very close to Mubi. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I want to say that there is a problem. The problem has to do with lack of understanding of how Boko Haram is even operating by our security forces. Mr. President, like other speakers said, I interacted with a few people who migrated from those areas into Yola. And what we hear is the number of people operating in those areas are not more than 100. But yet they are able to push the military away and take over most of the towns and villages around that area. And it may interest you to know that the second largest city in Adamawa, that is Mubi. Mubi, virtually everybody moved out of Mubi, including the emir, and they have all relocated back to Yola. As I'm talking to you now, there is virtually no public school or place in Yola that is not occupied by those who left those local governments into Yola. And you can see it on the pages of newspapers yesterday and probably even today, how small young boys Girls, women, elderly are queuing up in camp centers to even look for food to eat. Mr. President, apart from that, in the areas of Medagalia, Michika local government, some of the people that ran away, they went into the hills, into the bush. They were really harvesting unripe corns and some of the agricultural items to feed themselves. A lot of them, when Boko Haram learned about their presence in those areas, they went around and killed most of them. Nobody can tell you how many people have been killed in Madagali and Michika local government areas. Only God knows. But Mr. President, whatever prayer we may have in this chamber, let it be that something that will answer one question. I once asked the service chiefs this question. Why is it that the challenges facing our security agencies in Nigeria are different from those of our neighbors? Why is it that Cameroon were able to contain this carnage and any other neighboring country, they were able to contain this problem? In our own case, Mr. President, in Mubi in particular, when the insurgents took over Gulag, Michika, the backup force that was residing in Mubi, they were the first people that started running out of Mubi back to Yola. And that was what was responsible for the movement of people en masse out of the whole of those 5 local governments. When they saw the military themselves are running away, it was when everybody now decided to just run away. Some have left to their neighboring relations in Cameroon, and some came back to Yola. So, Mr. President, as I'm talking to you now, there is one big problem that we have on the ground. I don't know, that prayer too should include that. That is, there is lack of coordination between the central government, the state government, and those local governments in those areas. There is hardly any coordination between these tiers of government to really channel support, either through NEMA or SEMA or whatever. You find that all the support that is getting there now is coming from individual politicians. They just buy a few mattresses, few buckets, few mats, and take it to them. You wonder if there is any government at all. So, Mr. President, whatever we are going to do, we must ensure that those agencies that are supposed to give support to these people, those displaced, they are doing their work.